Hey everyone, how's it going? So today we're discussing Gravity Rush 2, which is a game that I've been waiting to play for quite some time. You guys know I went to E3 this past year and I got to play the game at the Sony booth. And I was very impressed by what I played. I thought the game had these astounding visuals on display that really impressed me more so than any other game, including Horizon Zero Dawn, just due to the physics simulation and what was possible and how much they pushed the boundaries of everything that they could do with the PlayStation 4 that they couldn't do on the PlayStation Vita. Now, I did play the original Gravity Rush on PlayStation Vita first. I never got to beat the game on that platform, though, but I did get the remastered version on PS4 last year and did, in fact, play and beat the game and really enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty decent story, and I loved the world it took place in. I loved the characters and the quirkiness and just the combat and everything. It was a lot of fun. And Gravity Rush 2 is more or less taking what the original Gravity Rush was in terms of concept and just expanding upon it and really just adding a whole new layer of depth and everything like that for the next generation of consoles here with the PlayStation 4. So what we have here is a much more vibrant, more lively world that was ever possible in the original game. It's just bolstering with colors here. I mean, from the moment that you get to the city part after the first 2 hours of the introduction, you're just taken aback of just how detailed everything is. You're walking through a market and you get real-time global illumination, the lights bouncing off buildings and characters, and it just looks incredible. And this is all coupled with the fact that this game has one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive, physics simulation in a game I've seen to this date. Because most games, in terms of their physics, they'll have a few destructible objects, and you'll be able to blow up like a plank of wood and it'll send wood shards everywhere, but those shards disappear and they don't actually still retain physics to them. In this game, every single object you see on screen is rendered, and everything has a real-time physics algorithm with its properties. And so that means if you walk into this market and you see a basket full of apples, when you use your gravity powers and you can levitate things and throw things, you won't just levitate the bag of apples, you'll levitate every single piece of apple in that bag along with the bag itself, and you can manipulate and interact with it in various ways. And what's awesome is these physics are actually useful in terms of gameplay, because you can pick up and throw objects and levitate a bunch of objects and throw them towards your enemies for massive damage, and it just looks incredible on screen. I've never seen anything that's taken physics to this point so far, and it is such a great showcase for what the PlayStation 4 architecture could do, and what developers can do when they put their minds towards it. It's an incredible physics system. Now, I have been playing this on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. The game has no HDR support, but it does support full 1080p on the base PS4. And if you have PS4 Pro, I believe the game is upscaled to 4K, and you get, I think it's called, it's some weird upscaling method, like temporal injection or something a bit weird like that. But it looks very convincing, on a 4K display. There's not a lot of jaggies that are present. Even on 1080p, it looks pretty damn good because they use a post-process anti-aliasing solution here. And so everything looks pretty damn good. And at 4K, it looks really nice if you have a PlayStation 4 Pro. And what's also good here is that the frame rate is unchanged between the two versions. You get a smooth, solid 30 frames per second on PS4, and a smooth, solid 30 frames per second using the PlayStation 4 Pro. It just looks really nice in motion. Now, the remastered version did, in fact, run at 60 frames per second, but when you really look at the visuals on display here and all the physics and the calculating that's going on, I mean, it's such eye candy that, to be honest with you, I don't mind the fact that it is 30 frames per second. It actually works quite well, and the game is optimized so that the frame time is actually consistent throughout the entire experience. So you don't get stuttering, you don't get screen tearing or big, massive frame rate drops. The game is very consistent with its delivery on performance in that respect. And so it's really awesome to see. So this is the sequel, right? And that being said, this game has an interesting story arc. I believe there's an anime that the game has that bridges the gap between the end of the original Gravity Rush and the start of this one, because this game kind of starts off as an interesting point. You're sitting here mining this planet, and you quickly realize that what happened was there was some sort of accident where you got separated from your friends, and you and your friend Sid, who is a character from the first game, basically end up on this mining boat, and you're basically trying to figure out what's going on, what happened, and you're kind of just thrown into, you know, the battle here. And this, I guess the story more or less revolves around you trying to figure out what happened, and you trying to reunite with, you know, the people that you were separated from. So it's a bit interesting. I don't think that the story this time is as engaging as the original game was, because at least from what I've played so far, and keep in mind that I'm not even halfway through the story, I'm probably about maybe a third, maybe a little bit more so my way through the actual campaign. But from what I played so far, the stakes seem kind of lower. The original game was cool because it sort of took this concept of you woke up with these gravity powers, you're trying to figure out how you got these powers, you're trying to figure out what powers you actually have, you meet these cool characters along the way, and then you basically are fighting this person who's very similar to you in powers, and then you guys team up and you basically have to save the city from massive destruction from the government taking it over and whatnot. And so it was this cool little twist to the story, and I really like that aspect. This one doesn't have anything like that. There's no I mean, there's a mystery involved in terms of what happened, right? But you already know your superpowers to begin with, and so you're trying to progress and unlock the same powers that you had from the original game. I do think that the game is interesting in that it does still have great side content like the first game did, and these side content missions actually end up being just as long as the main story missions, and the game still has challenges like the original game did. So if you want to hone your skills, right now I'm going for a completionist playthrough, so I'm trying to do all the challenges and do all the side missions, and from what I played so far, everything's really fun and rewarding. You actually get stuff that you normally wouldn't get if you do the side missions and the challenges. It's not just a simple oh, here's some extra points so you can go upgrade. No, you actually get like certain items, and sometimes it'll unlock clothing items, sometimes it'll unlock taunts. There's actually taunts in this game, which is kind of interesting, although I don't really know the purpose of them, because as far as I know, there's no online multiplayer in terms of two people flying around in this game, although that is a cool concept. I would like to see that in maybe a third game. It's just, you know, the side missions do give you purpose, do have purpose in the fact that they do give you something that you don't have access to if you just didn't do them, but they're also just engaging in their own right. They have their own storylines, and you'll meet characters, and these side missions do continue on with storyline arcs, so it's not like you just have 20 minutes of some wasteful plot. You actually do get some continuous plots going on in the side missions there, and it's kind of interesting. I do think that the content in terms of what it offers is just as good, if not better, than what the original game had. But to be honest, better than the original game, what this game does best is it's just world development. This game has a much better, more free and architecturally beautiful world than the first game ever could have hoped to do. Because what the first game did is it worked in tangent with its technical limits, right? Keep in mind it was a Vita game, and so they couldn't really do much on the PlayStation Vita, even though it was a really powerful handheld and you know, really did well in that aspect. They still couldn't deliver the type of detail that they were able to deliver in this game on the PlayStation Vita. So with that being said, I mean, the worlds in the original game were kind of simple, right? They had one color tone, and it was mostly muted, and there was also, you know, some pretty decent pop in. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty decent. It was one of the more, I would have to say, Gravity Rush was one of the more technically beautiful and achieved games on the PlayStation Vita, because it worked really well in that aspect, especially if you had the original model with the OLED screen. It looked really, really good. But Gravity Rush 2 basically says, screw color, we're just going to add breath and life into our world. And so we get a whole mix of different colors in here, and it just shines. You know, it really does. Whereas the original game had train stations that you would jump onto, and they would take you to different parts of the open world in this long stretch. This game uses verticality, so you have different sectors of the world, and it's kind of interesting because the world is done like a government type of social system, right? Because we have like a lower city, which is home to like the lower class. You have the middle city, which is, you know, your middle class people, and then you have way up in the sky the sort of upscale, you know, upper class homes and whatnot for those people who, you know, the wealthy people who can afford that. And it just works really nice because no longer do you have to take trains or trams to get to those those different cities and arcs. You just fly there, and the game, you know, there is pop-in, yes, and you can see it, but it does load fairly quickly. And once you're actually there exploring, the game just goes without a hitch, and it's beautiful to just walk around and explore. And I love how the physics system is basically different with each type of world that you visit, because you know, different worlds had different properties, whereas the downtown area has a lot of wood and, you know, just a lot of shops and just a lot of junk that you can just throw at people, whereas the upper scale part has just a lot of water, and you can actually take bubbles of water and gravity and just throw them, and it's really interesting. I really like the world design for this game. So Gravity Rush 2, in just a whole viewpoint of what I think about this game, it's a great game. It really adds upon the sequel. It really adds upon the original foundation that the first Gravity Rush had, and it just builds upon it in just a whole brand new light. I do think that the story so far is lacking from the original game. I would like to see the stakes be brought higher, but like I said, I haven't even got halfway through the story yet. And I'm enjoying the story missions a lot. Like it's a really fun game to play, but I just don't feel like the story stakes are that high yet. You know, like I'm getting excited when I see reunions of characters and you know, the slight mystery that's explored and stuff. But I just want to see more of it. And I would like to see those stakes brought up, and hopefully they do that, you know, during the later part of the game. So that's my impressions of Gravity Rush 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all your support. Let me know what you think if you guys played Gravity Rush 2. And as always, follow me on Twitter for more information, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.